So I made this game a few months ago for the Brackeys 2020.2 Jam, and the premise of the game was that it was a bullet hell space shooter game that played backwards. Or it was as if you were playing backwards, so if you shot a bullet, the bullet would end at the end of the screen and move towards the player. And it's like you're unshooting the bullet. But since you're playing backwards and there's enemies in the game, like what happens when you shoot and the bullet should have hit the enemy? Well, I had to create a system where the bullet would spawn where the enemy was destroyed. And I've been using Unity a lot lately, and they have a system in there that many of you probably are already aware of called Raycast, which and they've got like ray sphere, a whole bunch of different rays that they cast. But in this instance, in Unity, you can cast a line and it'll collide with something, and then it'll return the data from that object you collided with back to the object that spawned the raycast. But you can't do that in GameMaker, and that was the software I was using to make this Game Jam game. But I needed a raycast to make that work. The shooting system I had playing backwards work properly. All GameMaker has is a collision line code, which is binary basically. It's colliding with the object you wanted to collide with, or it's not. But luckily, it's a little bit more complicated than that, because when it is colliding with something, it's not like a 1 and a 0. It's returning, when it's colliding with something, it's returning the instance ID of the object that the collision line is hitting. And with that, you can create a system where you get all the data you could possibly want from the object that you're colliding with. So in essence, you can create your own raycast system within GameMaker. And I've gone on kind of long enough about that. And so let's get into this and create a raycast system within GameMaker. Alright, so I'm going to very quickly show you how to make a raycast system in GameMaker. I'm using Studio 1.4, but this works well with GameMaker Studio 2 as well. So let's get started. This is going to be the player. Play your enemy. We'll get to that in a second. This will be the bullet. Alright. We got that done. Oh. Player. Oh. Enemy. Okay. We got our 3 objects. Now it's time to code them. So, for the sake of time, I'm going to code the movement very simply. And alrighty, so we got his movement. Now, create event, start X. This will be a variable used for determining where the bullet's being created. At the beginning of the game, it's going to be nowhere, so I'm going to call its position no1. And random num is just going to be a random variable that's going to have a random number, and it will show up on the top left corner of the screen when the whatever object is hit. It's going to change the number just to show that you can get different information from the different objects that you hit, which is what a raycast does. Okay, and to show that this step here isn't necessary, but it's going to show how the system is working. Number plus string random num. There we go. All right, cool. There we go for him. Enemy's turn. Create event. Randomize. Just so that each individual object that we have will have a different values, and that value is going to change each time you play the game. Hit points, random, do range. There you go. 2. Say 5 hit points is the most that a enemy will have. Random num, just the number that's going to show up on the top left of the screen. Random 100. Okay. This will be if the hit points are less than or equal to 0, and we'll destroy the enemy. Perfect. Now let's go down to the bullet. Step event. Towards point player.x player.y. Cool. Okay, collision with player. Destroy itself. Now, finally, we have to build the raycast itself. So, to say a lot of, well, actually I do this pretty much for every game I make. I make the whatever button you have for shooting into a variable. So let's just call it key shoot equals keyboard check pressed VK space now if key shoot. Okay, so here I'm going to create the basis of the raycast system, and I'm going to use the collision line code for that. XY. So the line is going to start at the player's position, and it's going to end here at the room width because we're just using a simple room. In a larger game, it would be the view width. That's not an actual variable, but at least not in Studio 1.4. But anyway, you know what I mean. I hope. Anyway, and the Y is going to just always be the same. Now here, O enemy, that is the object that the line is colliding with, that we're getting the information from. If you wanted to detect more than just one object, then you'd have to create a parent object, even if it's just there in the game purely just for every object in the game to parent to it, to say, I want to be included in this equation when a raycast is cast. But that's kind of beyond the scope of this video. For now, we're just focusing on the enemy because the enemy is what we want to detect with the line, and so that's what we're going to collide with. False, true for this last part. Now there are going to be two outcomes for this, so we have to do two sections of code. So if raycast equals if raycast not equals no one, that means that the raycast is detecting an enemy. From here, we're going to do with raycast hit points minus minus other, and this is referring to actually the object calling, the object that we're actually doing the code for. It has to be other because right now we're coding from the point of view of the raycast, and the other is the player, if that makes any sense. Start x equals the position of the object being hit. Okay. Now, with all that being figured out, we're going to create the bullet at start x, start y, bullet. Now, what happens if the raycast doesn't hit an enemy and just goes off the screen? Then we do else, copy and paste this line, and we just have to change this because we want this to spawn on the edge of the screen. Y is going to be Y. And that is it. Let's create a room and see what happens. Just put a few of these all over the place. All right. See what happens. Okay, so you can see right now the random number is -4 because it hasn't been assigned yet. It hasn't detected any enemies, and so it's returning a value of -4. That, oh, of course. Of course. Wait. No, it should be working. Oh. That was silly. I put the wrong code in there. Move towards. You probably caught that. Let's make it a little faster. Okay, take two. They're spawning off screen because I'm shooting and there's no enemy in my way. But now, it's going from there. It destroyed the enemy. The number is 5. That was the random number assigned to that enemy. And shooting off screen. This one's number is 69. This one's 95. And you can see that one only had 2 hit points. That one had 5 hit points. So you can see the random range is working too. So that's just to show the versatility of what you can do with this. You can store any number of variables. You can get any number of variables from them and they can do different things. So it's truly versatile what you can do with this. It works just like a raycast in, at least as I understand them. I'm not the best programmer and perhaps there's way more to raycasts than I understand. But as far as I do understand them, the system that I just created here is pretty versatile and allows you to do a lot more than you can just simply do with a collision line on its own. So please let me know if this helped. I hope it did, and thanks for watching.